Well, welcome back, everybody. And I have the most wonderful guest today, Dr. Ann Prisco, the president of Holy Family University. And this is not an understatement, she is a dynamo. And so I want to, if it's okay, and talk or describe you the way I think of you. So I'm not going to do your typical run through the resume. I'm really just going to talk about how I know you and how fortunate I am about that. We actually, and actually, this is the power of networking. We, by chance, got to sit next to each other, remember?
Yeah.
And at a luncheon, I think it was a chamber luncheon when I was chair, and I was lucky enough to the right of me that we just happened to sit next to each other, and I knew right away that, and I'm sorry, I keep using the word dynamo, but I knew there was something really special about you. What you have done at Holy Family has been unbelievable. Just the transformation there. You are truly, in a very short amount of time, have become a civic leader, not only in the city, but particularly in Northeast Philadelphia. And I know I am joined by many others in feeling that way about you. So thank you, first of all, for everything you do for our city, and particularly Northeast Philadelphia, and being a leader, obviously, in the academic world as president. So I just wanted to, if it's okay, tell you that's how I feel about you. And
Okay. So I'm like blushing and uncomfortable with all of this. So
I'm
thank you.
sorry, I'm
And
sorry.
and equally I feel the same that I was just so fortunate, but I do think it's the professional networks, right? I was literally in Philly my first 2 weeks. I had just started the position. I was invited to some meeting. I didn't know if I was going to walk into a room with 200 people. I walked into a room with about 16 people attending a luncheon, very exclusive. So
Yeah.
again, thrown off completely, didn't know what I was walking into, but knew that I better start doing things like that. And I know we're not necessarily talking about career development, but that was one of the things I always say. Professional networks are so important.
Well, it's interesting though, because my question to you is, when did you feel the need to bet on yourself? Now, that's a specific example, but you didn't know what. You'd been there 2 weeks, right? Not knowing anybody, and yet you just jumped right in, and you certainly bet on yourself there. And I know, I'm sure there are many times when you bet on yourself, but I do think, tell me if I'm wrong, that that's actually a huge part of your success. I
And I
don't
don't know that I would thought of it that way,
know.
right? It just seemed like the right thing to do. And
Yes.
it also for me fulfills, I guess, a curiosity and interest in having a bigger perspective.
Mm.
So as a professional, some people feel like they're professionals at a certain institution or they're committed to a certain company or organization. I just was always committed to education. And wherever I happen to be, that's who I was advocating for. But the underlying interest was always education. So it never felt quite enough to just be limited to whatever the organization was I was working in. I always wanted to have a bigger context for the understanding of the work and what I could contribute to it in a bigger way. Maybe not
You
just
know,
my particular school, right?
you're right. And it's funny because it's not funny, but in a very short amount of time, you became chair of university presidents on the Greater Philadelphia Chamber of Commerce Board, which also speaks to the strength that you carry. Tell me about, but was there a time where you said, you know what, I need to take a bet on myself? And it could be good, it might be something, harder, whatever. Was there that time?
It was certainly messy. And as I was thinking about this, we're going back a long, long way. We're going back to, high school, college. But when I thought about it, I said, well, maybe that's what influences some of my thinking around how important college choice is for a student. right? And how you can adapt. So as a first generation, my father was an immigrant. My parents didn't even finish high school, but they knew education was important. So it was always don't work with your back, work with your brain, go to school, it's important. That being said, they didn't want me to go away to school. I passed a full scholarship to Cornell because my father said, I'll buy you a car. I want you to stay home. You
Mm,
live at home. You don't go away.
okay.
So I started commuting my first year to a local city university campus and quickly realized it was a really bad choice for me. The traffic, would be in tears to get to campus and try and find a spot to park my car because we weren't in a position where I could just pull into a parking lot and pay for it, right? I had to find a spot on the street. And I didn't feel like I belonged there. I was very alienated. And then at home, I felt like it was a repeat of high school for me. My parents still expected me to take my mom shopping and go to like they didn't understand what it meant to be a college student and the work involved. And
Right.
so halfway through my first year, I had family in Phoenix. I knew the University of Arizona had a good program that I was interested in. And I'm not even told my parents, I just applied. I was accepted. I got enough financial aid and scholarships after tears and appeals and everything else. I had to appeal to get more money. I got to go to the University of Arizona, and that was the first time I probably really broke my parents' heart because they didn't want me to go away. But I knew for me, I needed to do this. And I ended up graduating top of the class. Was part of a professional organization that made me travel to do presentations. So I grew a lot. I also learned what it meant to be the other. You know, here I am, a kid from Brooklyn, very small, tight community. Also used to being in diverse community, right? My high school was a huge, diverse city high school. So I was used to being with all different kinds of people. And now I go to Tucson, Arizona in the 70s, where I never knew what it meant to be in a red state. I had to learn to do the two-step. I mean, it was just, it was culture shock. And for the
And you
first
pushed,
time,
right? You
I
pushed
put
yourself.
through it, but I was the other. I had to learn to not feel like, when I think about it, I wasn't a blonde sorority girl. I didn't even know what those things were until I got there and had to kind of find my lane. Like, who are my people so that I could feel comfortable? But that's a challenge, right? And I always say that we ask our students every year, we welcome in all these new students. It's completely new for them. They don't know what they're walking into. So sometimes it's good to be the other, right? And put
Yes.
yourself in a situation where, oh, I don't feel comfortable, as opposed to Philly, which I must admit I do feel comfortable in,
Yeah.
right? And I think that helps.
Yeah, well, I love that. It's what you're talking about reminds me, I don't know if you know that Mary Oliver quote that says, "What have you done or plan to do with your one precious life?" And so, given this, remarkable story of how realized I've got to become the other, I've got to bet on myself. What inspires you to really, to do these things? What drives you? What is it?
Yeah, so I do think part of it is, um, and I don't know if it's that I'm a child of an immigrant. I'm a first gen, I was the first, that's my brother and I am the older of the two. So I think from a very early age, you know, um, we always hear those jokes about, you're the boss lady or you're the little kid on the block who's organizing everything. I always felt a sense of responsibility, right? From a young age, my father would bring me with him just in case someone asked him a question and he couldn't respond in English properly and he'd be embarrassed. So I had to learn to sort of be responsible early on, or it's just in my nature, I don't know, right? And then as I felt like I had opportunities that I know others didn't. Then it became a matter of, oh, well, how can I do this in a way? I really care about school. I love education and I never left school. So now how do I do this? How do I take what I learned and help other people?
And do you think you created those opportunities for yourself? I mean,
Yeah,
it,
that's a really good point, Sue.
uh,
Yeah, especially as women.
mm,
And when I think early on in my career, I changed jobs every 2 or 3 years in my first 8 years of being out of college because I would serve a certain place, hit a ceiling, and knew if there wasn't an opportunity there, I was not afraid to jump. And I think that's important. So we always say these days, young people plan on they change jobs every few years. No one told me to do that. I just knew I needed to do that if I wanted to sort of have and it wasn't even moving up as much as it's the next challenge. Like, okay, I did this job. I know how to do it. Let me go find something else, right?
Love it. Yep. Well, you are amazing. And thank you so much. And love that you did bet on yourself and you had the actual natural instincts to keep moving forward and look where you are now. So we all really appreciate everything you're doing, certainly here in Philadelphia and the region. So thank you for your leadership.
Well, and thank you for helping me to gain visibility and contacts in the Philly area because that's such an important point, right? I knew I
Pleasure.
needed that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Okay, great to talk with you.
Same here. Have a great day.